Chris here from CriticalOutcast.com. I know it's been a while since I did one of these videos, but I figured I'd try to get back into it one more time. Or maybe not one more time, but again. Anyway, this week I just wanted to do something, quick and relatively painless, and just take a look at a single movie. And it's probably a movie you've probably never heard of. Ever heard of a movie called Rawhead Rex? No? Okay, well, I know a lot of people, most of the people I talk to around, during the day job and all, have never heard of it either. But anyway, it's an obscure horror film from about, I think it was made in 1986, based on a short story by Clive Barker. Now, I'm sure most of you have heard that name before. This came out before, he hit it big on the big screen with Hellraiser in 1987. This film is a little less successful. Probably could have used a stronger vision from a director and perhaps another rewrite or two. But still, it's a movie that alternates between being boring and being pretty entertaining. You get some pretty crazy stuff in it. It's set in Ireland, and I guess you should say it's about the battle between paganism and Christianity, or the way that Christianity comes in and kind of like steamrolls over everything, kind of takes elements of other religions and belief systems into its own to try to bring other people into the faith. Or, you could simplify it even more. Since it is just a horror movie, it's about a rubber-faced monster going around ripping limbs off people in the Irish countryside. That works too. Whichever way you decide to look at it, you'll probably get something interesting out of it. Things really get underway pretty early on when there's a farmer and a couple of his buddies are clearing a field, and in the middle of this field is a giant stone monolith, which, if you look at it, it's essentially a penis pillar. Yep, that's right. Anyway, the farmer actually gets this pillar knocked over, and out from underneath jumps Rawhead Rex. It took me a while to figure out exactly what he reminded me of, but do you remember those thumb-sucking monkey dolls and those little, toys you get for kids, the monkey stuck the thumb in his mouth? They were called Monchichi dolls. I believe that's how you pronounce it. But that's pretty much what it looks like. If you picture one of those as a homicidal demon, there you go. That's what Rawhead Rex is. He pretty much has one expression, mouth open, teeth out, drool, red eyes. And, he can open and close his mouth a little bit, but, there's not much to his facial expressions. But whoever they found the guy who put in that suit is a pretty tall dude. He walks around pretty much finding whoever he can, whoever comes across his path, and just, pretty much rips him limb from limb. On the other hand, while he's doing that, you also have a visiting American, a writer and his family who are, I guess you could say, on a working vacation. He has been going around investigating religious locations, places that have been important parts to religion over a long period of time. And it just so happens that there's this Christian church that has been in this one location for a long time, but it was not always a Christian church, and that's what he finds interesting, is that it apparently was a pagan, church. They worship, as it turns out, Rawhead Rex. So while he's trying to figure out the connection between this, then people start turning up dead, and it just goes on from there until you have that final showdown between the American and Rawhead. Along the way, you do have some interesting things. You have the whole paganism versus Christianity thing, with the church and the original, the stained glass images in the church, and the idea of this demon going around pretty much killing everybody, trying to bring back, I guess you could say, his followers, trying to find them again. And to help him, he actually hypnotizes a couple of people, and it's usually people in authority. There's a police detective and one of the priests that he controls and gets to do his bidding. So it's interesting to see how it's the powerful that become corrupted by evil, if you will. It's there's probably a lot more going on that was probably in the short story that Barker had originally written, that would probably make this a bit more interesting, a bit more deep. But as it is, it's a mild curiosity from the '80s. It's worth checking out if you like obscure horror, or you're just looking for something that you haven't seen before. Because something tells me this is a title that really hasn't gotten hasn't been seen by a whole lot of people outside of those who really go ahead and seek it out. It's hard to find these days. If you go and look on eBay or on Amazon, the price that they're asking for the DVD of this thing is utterly ridiculous. But if you are able to get a chance to see it, I'd say definitely give it a check it out. Along the way, in between the bits of boredom, as you work your way towards the conclusion, you will find some interesting stuff. The demon, granted he has one expression and is reminiscent of a demonic child's toy. It's a pretty good design. The guy is pretty menacing and scary. Even more interesting than him are like the priest, the things that he says, his willingness to die, his baptism by urination sequence is a pretty eye opening. You also have interesting things like the way that the people in the town don't believe the outsider, yet when this kid sees him and pretty much becomes catatonic, scrawls a picture of him, that's what the people go, oh, maybe he was telling the truth, maybe there is something to this. So that's always kind of fun, pretty common element of horror films. I guess one of the bigger problems with it is when you get to the end, it has a solid conclusion, but instead of actually ending, it continues on just a little bit too far, and they throw this last image in right before the credits that pretty much makes no sense. There's no context. There's nothing to explain why. It reminds me a little bit of the end of Lucio Fulci's City of the Living Dead, where you have the heroes coming out of the tombs and to be reunited with this child they had known from earlier, and the child comes running across the field, laughing and screaming, and all of a sudden, the screen goes into slow motion, and you hear the woman screaming, and then it just ends. No idea why, no context. It's along those lines. It's like, I don't get that. Why was that there? But, be that as it may, Rawhead Rex is a fun movie. I like it. I think that the Irish setting gives it a bit of a different look, makes it stand out from the typical look of 80s horror films. They use a lot of local actors, lots of Irish actors, so there has that element of authenticity to it. I'm kind of glad that Barker decided to go the route of directing himself. When he went after this, went on to do Hellraiser. I believe the director's name for this was Jim Pavlaw, I think. I could be wrong on that, but I believe that was his name. He's not bad, but the film doesn't have a very distinct vision to it. So it kind of relies on the monster and the Irish setting to carry it along visually. And I think this probably could have used a little more punch up from that. Still, Rawhead Rex, I give it a thumbs up. It is definitely worth checking out if you can find it, reasonably. I wouldn't go crazy for it, but it's definitely worth spending some time with. So that's about all I got for this outing. Be sure to keep an eye on thecriticaloutcast.com. Keep your eye on the YouTube channel, and hopefully we'll get some more of these one-shots out there. See you later.